If you hear an eerie sound going across Dallas, that's me screaming at night, wanting to get in a position to get a Super Bowl.
And the boos rain down. It's one of the worst playoff games the Cowboys have ever played.
Take a little bit more time to digest it. Completely stunned.
Remember this feeling. Allow that to be our motivation, our inspiration when we need it.
Pressure is privilege. My expectations are so high. And higher expectations creates higher results.
End zone caught, touchdown.
You wouldn't want it any other way.
Look, Cowboys, they're going to open the preseason Sunday against the LA Rams. They've been holding joint practices all week. Now, the boys probably be without their main offensive weapon, CeeDee Lamb. Lamb holding out. He's entering the last year of his deal. That will pay him nearly $18 million. And Jerry Jones said after practice yesterday, he's not pressed about getting CeeDee a new deal.
Are you saying there's a sense of urgency as you begin the preseason to get CeeDee done?
No.
No? Why you say that?
I'm just, I went to high school or I went to college. I don't know why I said it, but I'm just saying I don't know. I don't have a sense of urgency about getting it done.
Lord have mercy. CeeDee Lamb apparently saw Jerry's remarks. His response on X, LOL. Courtney, you saw what Jerry's had to say. What do you like it, dislike it?
He is the single greatest hindrance to how far this team can go this season because of all of the self-inflicted nonsense that he is just heaping onto his team at a time where they should be trying to figure out a contract extension for Dak Prescott, trying to figure out getting CeeDee Lamb into training camp and pay him. And on top of that, Micah Parsons also needs a new deal at some point. Like, Jerry Jones couldn't even come up with an answer as to why he was going to hold this thing out even longer with CeeDee Lamb. He couldn't even articulate the reasoning behind why he said, no, I'm cool waiting on this. None of this makes sense. And all this boils down to is you have non-football people making football decisions, which as a former general manager, I'm sure is frustrating because Jerry Jones, kind of like in Rush Hour when Chris Tucker's talking to Jackie Chan saying, you know, I'm the emperor, I'm the king, I'm Michael Jackson, you Tito. Like, that's him. He thinks he has to have his hand in every single pot. And that affects the front office. That affects the coaching staff. And I'm sure there are people in that building right now thinking, oh, my God, he's alienating our number one receiver who's not here anyways and pushing him further away. Don't be surprised at some point if this thing continues, if you see CeeDee Lamb come out with a trade request, because that is the direction his owner is pushing him in right now. He's alienating the superstar talent that your offense needs to thrive this year. They're supposed to be all in for a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And you're not paying guys. You have $29 million in cap space. What are you doing?
I know.
You going to Nobu and Malibu? Like, that's what he wants to do instead of paying his players?
That's why we have Mike T here, our front office insider, to give us some insight on this. What is the play here? Because for me, it's so frustrating. Whether it's Emmitt Smith, whether it's Zach Martin, whether it's Ezekiel Elliott, it's always the Cowboys that have these major holdouts for camp.
Yeah, Brian, two thoughts. From a tangible standpoint, I agree with what Courtney said, which is like nothing good's come out of this. And specifically, if they had signed him going back to February or March, the market was probably $28, $29 million. You saw Amon-Ra St. Brown get done. We've seen Devontae Smith get done. We've seen A.J. Brown get done. More recently, Justin Jefferson. So you're costing yourself at least $6 or $7 million a year. And the juxtaposition of, you look at Philly, who extended those two receivers and still had plenty of money to go ahead and get Saquon Barkley. But also fundamentally, from an intangible standpoint, Harry, you know this as a former player, I was very concerned about my words and actions when I was doing a deal and how it impacted the locker room. And if I'm a Dallas Cowboy player and I look at CeeDee Lamb, led the league in receptions, right? High character, productive, consistent, and you're not going to pay him, or you don't have a sense of urgency to pay him, what do you think about me? So that's why I think not only, Brian, you could go back over those last 20 years about the deals and how much money it cost them strategically, but more fundamentally, guys, like those comments resonate with the rest of the team.
For me, when I look at Jerry Jones, he is the greatest car salesman that we have in America right now. Because Jerry sat up there and said that he's going to be all in. And then when he wasn't all in free agency, he sat up there and he talked about, all in can mean, your own guys. We have Dak Prescott, we have CeeDee Lamb, and we got to pay Micah. Remember, we got to pay Micah. Well, none of those guys have a contract currently right now. So when I'm looking at CeeDee Lamb and I'm looking at this offense and I'm saying to myself, if they do not have CeeDee Lamb on the football field, how is this offense even going to thrive? If I'm a defensive coordinator and I look over and I put the offensive unit up on the wall to my unit, and there's no game record outside of Dak Prescott. So how are you going to be able to function as an offensive unit if CeeDee Lamb is not on the football field? Mike T, you talked about it. He was second in receiving yards, first in yards at the catch. He broke Michael Irvin's single-season reception and yards record as a Dallas Cowboy. He's a guy that you can line up in the slot, in the backfield, out wide. He can beat you multiple different ways. He can go back there on punt return. He can do it. If you're not going to pay a guy that has been doing things the right way and has had major production for your football team, I agree with Mike T said. There are other guys in that locker room that's going to look at that and say, you know what does he think about me? If he thinks this way about our best players who don't have deals right now, Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Parsons, he'll just throw me by the wayside.
What's the leverage that Jerry has? And maybe take me back to when you were in New York in the Darrelle Revis thing. Remember? And then Revis finally came back. What was it that finally opened it up and you said, okay, let's get the deal done?
Well, they finally realized I was right. It's like having two teenagers. You just pound them and eventually, Brian, I would have had, more hair and less weight if I had the answer to that. So, I think you want to be a great listener. And I always say, there's enough clubs in the bag to get a deal. And sometimes that landing spot's smaller between cash and cap. But, to fast forward to where we are, this one's easy, guys. This is a very well-defined market. If we want to slug it out about Micah Parsons and he has another year to go and he should be at Nick Bosa, we can have that conversation. But as it relates to CeeDee Lamb, Brian, this one is as easy.
Because you got Justin Jefferson's already done.
Right there.
Monte Brown is done.
The day after
guys, if the four of us were sitting here in February, we'd have said the same thing.
I would say this. When I look at the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and the way they function, they are not proactive. They're reactive to everything that they do. And in my opinion, I think it costs them more money on the back end because now you have to give Ezekiel Elliott exactly what he wants. If you're going to pay Dak Prescott, by the day, it's going up. Yesterday's price is not today's price. They have a song that actually says it in it. So if you're Jerry Jones, if you're Stephen Jones, I love what the Philadelphia Eagles did. You go to your wide receivers and you get ahead of the curve before they even come up. So you don't have to worry about this. And like you mentioned, Mike T, they had room on the back end to go get one of the most dynamic running backs in the NFL in Saquon Barkley. When we look at Dallas and we say to ourselves, okay, they brought back Ezekiel Elliott. You have a guy in Derrick Henry, who I know that's my little big brother from another mother, who has a place in Dallas, and you don't even reach out to him to try to get him there?
It's an antiquated way of doing business. I get CeeDee Lamb's going into the final year of his contract. He's playing on his fifth-year option. What superstar wide receiver have we seen out there who's had to fight through that and to be okay, I'm going to hit free agency, then I'll play out this option? It's not the 90s. It's not a different era of the NFL where it's okay, you guys got to prove it until we offer you this deal. He's already proven his value to this offense. Dak Prescott has already proven his value to this offense, to this team, to that entire franchise. And I think about when he says, no, I don't have a sense of urgency. What's going to create that urgency?
Well,
a loss to the
81 years
Cleveland
of
Browns?
age better be the sense of urgency.
Of course.
Because Jerry Jones, you're not getting younger. But with both of those players, with Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, listen, it's not like they have slouches of agents. Dak Prescott is represented by Todd France. And then when you look at CeeDee Lamb, he's represented by Jimmy Sexton. So those are two of the top guys in the game. So you might want to watch how you're playing ball with both of these guys, in my opinion.
Brian, you used the word leverage earlier in the conversation. And to me, when we talk about Dak Prescott in particular, I thought when they didn't draft a quarterback in this year's draft, they have no leverage. Now, look, they have Trey Lance. That's a big question mark. So if I'm Dallas and my starting quarterback can't be franchised, I can't trade him, and we didn't draft somebody, we're sitting here in March, you're giving Dak Prescott a blank check.
Yeah, it's true. And you look at Cooper Rush, Trey Lance, all those guys are in the last years of their deals. So you're really stuck after this season if you're the Cowboys on all of this. We talk about Jerry Jones. You said he's the biggest hindrance in this team moving forward. But for years, Mike, you know that he's never wanted to bring someone in as the GM. It's always been a family affair there in Dallas.
When you own the team, you're beyond accountability. They haven't been to a conference championship game since 1995. That standard would not apply to somebody that's, let's face it, not a family member. So when you own the team, you have the rights and privileges of ownership, and that's why he's been able to do what he's wanting to do, which, if you're competing against him, it's worked out well for the other teams in the division. Now, look, they have won a lot of regular season games with this group. We got to give them, a lot of credit for that. But the other question, too, is, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I wanted an extension that you said no to me. So now your head coach is a free agent as well. That typically does not end well when you're looking at the track record of head coaches going in the last year of their deal.
He talked about the players, all of these guys looking at this. You've been a former player. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you look at your quarterback, everybody else, and all your top guys are in their last year of their deal, and you're looking like, what the heck is this organization doing?
Honestly, no, because I was fortunate enough to play for two amazing owners, Arthur Blank for the Atlanta Falcons and Amy Anna Strunk for the Tennessee Titans. So I did not have to go through that nonsense the 10 years that I played in the NFL because we had phenomenal leadership from top to bottom.
Yeah.